So I'm sure, like many of you, I'm tired of seeing the violence, not just in this country, it's pretty bad here, but worldwide. Hearing all the negative news, seeing things about gun violence and any other kind of violence, domestic violence, seeing what's happening to our children, the world that we're growing up in. In some ways, it seems like it's getting better, and in other ways, it seems like it's getting worse. And I'm tired of just sitting around and talking about how I would like to see the world be a better place, and talking about how, there are things that could be fixed or changed, and, just in passing conversations with friends or other people, but not really doing much about it. And I think it's time that we start to collectively pull together and do more to help make a difference for the better. That we start trying to make our ideas, our thoughts, more worldwide. By spreading positive messages and telling people, this is what I think, this is how I feel about this situation, it can make a difference. But just one person can't do it by themselves. We have to do it together. So something that I've been doing is watching human behavior for a long time, for more than 20 years. And it started out with, about parenting. And, surely there's a better way to handle situations than just spanking our kids or yelling at them or, getting frustrated and seeing the damage that that does and how that affects our kids, because it does really affect them. And does that make people bad parents? No, it doesn't. We're all trying to do the best that we can. But we need to start changing the way that we think about it. We need to start trying to be better as people, as parents, because how we treat our children does affect them. It affects the kind of adolescent they become, and then how they deal with their adolescence affects the kind of adult that they become. Ultimately, through looking at how things are in this world, how we react to things, how we talk to each other, how we treat each other, just in general, I think I have found the source of most of the issues that we have, just in general. And when you do something to try to correct the source of that issue or issues, it'll have a domino effect. Just like it's had a domino effect that's created a lot of the violence and everything that we see. And it's time to fix it. With everything escalating, and now with the new super nuclear bomb that Russia has created, and I'm sure there are going to be more to follow, the more angry and violent that we respond, or more angry and violent that we are, the more that's just going to create more anger and violence. It's just going to create more hatred. And it's time for us to really start making a difference. It's time for us to try to do more to change things, but we have to do it collectively. Ultimately, we are all one. What we do as a society, or what we do together, is what's going to create that movement, like a wave that will change the rest of the world. So when we respond in anger and violence, maybe I'm just one person, but that affects the next person. And then they're going to be angry and upset because someone just yelled at them over a return that they couldn't process at a store. And then they may turn around and respond in an angry manner towards somebody else. It affects more than what we think. What we do to one another, we do to ourselves. What we do to each other is the general atmosphere that we create. So instead of lashing out whenever we're angry, take a deep breath, take a step back and say, I'm going to let this one go. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that important. When you stop and think about those little things that we become angry or frustrated about and bully each other over on a daily basis, there are things much worse in this world going on. Things that are way more important that we're not even thinking about. Is it really worth getting that angry because they couldn't return something at the store because it's against their policy? Is it really worth getting that mad that somebody cut you off on the highway? No. There are much bigger things to worry about. There are so many other things that we could be putting that energy toward. like loving each other better, caring for each other better. We have lost so much connectedness with each other and just been getting involved in our phones and texting, and we don't call people very much anymore. We don't talk to people as much, go and hang out. Instead, we do video gaming or something, and that's another issue that contributes to the problem. When we call someone at a 1-800 number to fix the internet or something, and we get mad because it didn't turn out the way that we wanted, and we yell at the person on the other end. I mean, it's like we forget that we are talking to other human beings with feelings. We treat each other in such an inhumane manner on a daily basis, and that does affect things overall. It does have an impact. So, granted, maybe that by itself is not going to, or changing that by itself isn't going to contribute to world peace, but it's a start. Just changing how we interact with each other every single day, even with the little things, is a start. It's something that can make a much bigger difference than we even realize. The source of almost all of the problems that we have in this world is our lack of compassion. And labels make that worse. We have a very bad problem with labeling. For a long time, I called myself an atheist Buddhist. And then I thought, I'm not my label. And while I'm very much a fan of the Buddhist philosophies, that's not the only thing that I draw from. There are lots of things that Gandhi said that were good. Martin Luther King Jr. There are so many other examples through history who had very great, wise things to say, and I collectively like to draw from all of those things. And I'm not my labels. Nobody is their labels. When we think of someone as being a label, it's like it's a way of dehumanizing them, or at least that's how we tend to use it. Oh, that person's a Muslim. We shouldn't talk to them. They're probably a violent person, or they might be a terrorist, or, that's not okay. We're all human beings. We're all our own individual people. We all have our own different perspectives, our own ways of viewing the world, our own thoughts and feelings about everything. And when we put a label to those people, we're segregating them and putting them into their own little group as if they're not part of us. So, as of today, I'm not an atheist Buddhist. I may not believe in any god or goddesses or any higher power. I may be very fond of Buddhist philosophies, but that's it. I'm fond of the Buddhist philosophies, but I'm not going to call myself a Buddhist. And I may not believe in higher powers, but that's it. It's just something I don't believe in. I'm not going to label myself as an atheist. I would like to do more to contribute to helping create world peace. And I know I'm not going to see it in my lifetime. But at least we can start trying to put the wheels in motion that will help create it later on in the future. And it might take a while, but it's something. At least it can happen. I know that it's possible. I've been watching human behavior long enough to see what the source of the problem is, and I know how to fix it. And it starts first by spreading a positive message, talking to people, letting them know that we are not helpless. We don't have to just sit here and put up with this and say, oh, well, that's just how people are. They're just angry and violent, and they do things to hurt each other all the time, and that's not true. You take a child who's raised in a very compassionate, loving environment, and they're not exposed to violence, and they're not exposed to a lot of anger and hate, they grow up to be a more compassionate, peaceful being. And even though a lot of us weren't raised like that, we were raised in a more angry or violent environment, that doesn't mean we can't change. Humans are capable of great things. We are capable of changing our brains, of progressing in our mentality, of moving forward. Change is not a bad thing, as long as it's always about moving forward and being better human beings, being better people. So I was trying to think about what to call this movement toward world peace, And, you know, I thought of myself as, you know, maybe equalist humanitarian, or, you know, because I'm not just for men's rights or women's rights or equality among races, or for, you know, everyone having freedom of choice of their religion or personal perspectives. It's everything. That we're all together, and that's we're all one. And at first I thought of something that had to do with equalist humanitarian, but again, that's just another label, so we're not going to use that. The only label that I will accept, and it's not even really a label, it just is that I'm a human being. That we are all just human beings who are trying to make a movement toward peace. So this peace movement, so to speak, isn't going to have an official name other than it's just a movement toward something better, a movement toward being better, and hopefully one day it will lead to world peace.